your like demeanor is like, you reminded me a lot of me because you kind of lose yourself. You start to believe everything that they say. You feel like less than, and things of that sort. You don't speak up, for yourself when before maybe you were someone who, was very verbal and things of that sort. Um, and putting it into a poem, like I was telling the listeners and Mark earlier, poetry for me or just writing was like a way, not just a way of escape, but it was liberating, it was therapeutic, and things of that sort. Kind of way to flush things out, if you will.
Yeah, like a relief.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just kind of like a release. So, in those 6 years when you were enduring the verbal abuse, did you at any point think about leaving? Or did you? I know for me, I kept trying to change certain things about me that would maybe make them stop and just love me. So, how was that experience for you? Like, did you think about leaving? Were you trying to change certain things? Did you think it was your fault?
In the beginning, it was more like it's my fault. Um, I'm gonna change, try to make it better. So in my poem, I say perfect makeup, perfect hair, perfect smile behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So um, in that, I'm saying I'm trying to make myself perfect, but I'm not. And then I'm also trying to make myself perfect to other people so that it looks like to them that this is a okay relationship, and I don't want people to think that. And um, as it progressed, eventually later on, I did start thinking about leaving, and I did let that go. Um, but for the longest, I was just trying to change myself and make myself better. But in reality, it wasn't making myself better. It was just torturing myself.
So, throughout the 6 years that you were enduring, I know that you're writing poetry about it now. That's how you're getting your story out. Um, in those 6 years, did you write at all while you were in the
Um,
relationship?
I did sometimes, but I really don't know what those forms are. So,
Okay.
probably for the better.
It was always poetry.
I also sing, so sometimes I will put my feelings in a song as well. And
Okay.
other times I just keep it to myself, keep it inside, and that's what was really destroying me. So I had to eventually let it out.
Right. I think for me, it wasn't so much poetry; it was journaling. So while I was in it, journaling was I would go back and kind of replay the day, and then to
Mm-hmm.
say how I felt at the end of the day, because I didn't have anybody to talk to, so it was me, and I was literally like losing my mind. Um, so that was the only way I could communicate, if you will. Um,
Right.
what was the breaking point for you to decide to leave?
And I had a stillbirth, and through the entire pregnancy, he wasn't there. Like I go to the doctor's visit, he wasn't there. I had complications. I couldn't get a hold of him. He would never come. Or if I did get a hold of him, it was always some type of excuse I can't come because of this, which was something trivial, nothing really major, reason why he couldn't come. So at that point, that's when my mind started going, he don't love you, he don't care about you, so you need to get out of this. I think.
Mark, you had a question?
Yeah. Do you think that the writing actually helped you in a way? Do you think that being able to put your feelings down on paper, do you think that helped you to look at it objectively or to figure out what it is you were going through?
Yes, I think it really, really helped me. When I started this series, it was almost like a healing process. when I moved to Indiana, I asked God to give me healing, and He slowly began to do that and made venues for that. And my real healing process began when I did like Summer Action, and I told my story without any reservation. I didn't care what people knew because the poetry not only was able to give me a release, but I feel like it became something that could help other people and help them get out of that situation. So at that point, it helped me to realize that when I look back on it, my story isn't just a bad story.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that gave me purpose to help other people and get them out of that situation.
Right.
Like the voices.
So before you started the Lights Camera Action poetry series, about things that you experienced, I'm wondering if did it seem like surreal to you, like while you were in it, and then writing it on paper, it became like reality. I was, and what I mean by that is I was sharing with the listeners earlier that Maya Angelou, one of the greatest poets in the world, she when she was raped at 7, she stopped speaking for 5 years because she thought that speaking that person's name um, uh, made him pass. I think he got killed or something. Um, and in those 5 years, she didn't say a word, but she just read and read and read and would write. And then so after that, she had so much to write, and then her poetry, reflects her life and how she felt and things of that sort. So it was almost like once you speak it or write it, it becomes reality. Uh, and so like for me, it was kind of like surreal. I couldn't believe that these things were actually happening, or people wouldn't believe that these things were actually happening from childhood all the way up to adulthood. So I'm like, once I put it in a book or put it on paper in poetry, then it's like, okay, now it's reality. It's solid. Now I'm looking at it. People are actually going to see it. So is it like that for you? Like, or is it?
It was almost like when I was in it was almost like I was just there, and it wasn't really happening. But when I put it on paper, I'm like, dang, I went through this.
Right. It doesn't seem so bad when you're in it, right?
Yeah, like when you see it on the paper, it's like a self-realization. You're like, why did I do this? And when you're in it, it's like it's not that bad. It's almost like you're blinded in a way.
Yeah.
But after you put it on paper, it's like, what was wrong with me?
I totally can identify with that. So, and you also talked about in one of your poems about you were talking about perfect hair, perfect makeup and things of that sort behind the scenes, but you also talked about another one in your poem where you were a leader in church and you were concerned about what other people may think and say, at church. So what made you, and I know that a lot of people tend to stay away from church or because of quote unquote church hurt. And I tell people all the time, I personally don't believe in church hurt. They're people just like everybody else. You go to church for a word to get something from you, not to be concerned with what others may think or say. And kind of like the woman with the issue of blood, if she could just touch the hem of his garment, she knew she would be healed. Forget what everybody else say or think. I'm trying to get to Jesus. You can say whatever you want to say on the sidelines, in my face, whatever. At the end of the day, the only difference between you and me is you can see my issues, and I can't see yours. So that's the only thing, and that's just the way my mind works. So, what made you consider still telling your story in lieu of being someone that was a leader in the church?
So let me give a little more background to make it clear. So I was a Sunday school teacher. I was in the choir, and then I was pregnant, and I had a stillbirth. When I had this stillbirth, I came back to church. I'm still really supposed to be in the bed, resting and whatnot. And I actually I get hurt by the church because they're not talking to me with remorse or considering my pain. They just want me to hurry up and get back in the choir. So it really hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
And they put me out. So in my mind, I'm in this very vulnerable state because I just lost my child. So in my mind, I take it as you don't see me as a person, you see me as a voice to make your choir sound good.
Mm-hmm.
So I also went through a period where church was almost like a trigger for me. Like it made me go back to that moment where I lost my child and see people don't care about it just because they could see my belly if I stood in the choir stand and see it as a sin. But I was thinking like everybody else in the choir, they got sins too. So if you took away everybody who had a sin, you're not gonna have a choir at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really hurt by it. And for a long time, I didn't really hurt at all. Because every time I would walk through the building, I would get sad. Somebody would say something to me negative or something.
Mm-hmm.
But through it all, I was still trying to hold on to God. I would still go every now and then, but I couldn't go like I needed to.
Mm-hmm.
So I said all this to say, I don't want people that are out in the world to think that church is the people. Church is what you make. You go there for God, like Lady J said, you go there for God. So I wanted to bring to light the reality of going through life as a Christian, as a beginning Christian, and we're all sinners, and we all need help. The church is like the doctor. You go there to get help.
Mm-hmm.
So I also want to bring light to those who are seasoned Christians. Don't push away new Christians by constantly pointing out their sins. Let God deal with it. I mean, you can do it in a way that you don't push them away.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Mark,
that's why I wanted to tell my story.
Yeah, I did want to acknowledge the fact that there is a such thing as church hurt. I mean, I know people feel differently about it, but I think that if you grow up in church and you understand what church is or what church is supposed to be, then you know that you're not there for them. That what they say doesn't really matter. Only what God says and only what you do for Him is going to last anyway. And that's if you've already been seasoned in church. If you haven't, if in your mind uh, going to church is your avenue to God because you haven't gotten all of the knowledge and the wisdom that there is to church and what church is, then somebody can say something or do something or say something out the way or do something in a way that makes you not just be disgusted by going. If you don't understand what it is, your purpose is, why you're supposed to be going there, if you don't understand that the pastor isn't God, that the pastor isn't Jesus, that they're just a conduit that God uses to speak to you through. If you don't understand those concepts, then somebody can say something to you and or do something to you in a way because they're doing it out of their own flesh and not out of love. They're doing it out of their own inconsistencies or insecurities and not out of just a godly place that it can make you say, you know what, to heck with it. Um, I think I think it depends on your knowledge of God and your knowledge of what church is. If church in your mind is the event, going there, seeing the people there, sitting down and talking to people, receiving love, because maybe in your family you don't receive that. Maybe in your family there's not a sit down, get together where everybody loves on each other and laughs with each other and stuff like that. If church is the event for you, then if somebody comes and ruins that event, then you can be hurt by it. If you've graduated to the level that church is just a place that you get together with other like-minded believers and you love on, or you praise, or you worship your God together, but you don't necessarily have to have this. You don't necessarily have to have this relationship with the people there in order to do it. Then I can understand the the any kind of hurt that you receive at that point. If you're allowing other people to, if you're attributing it to other people, then that's just an excuse.
Okay, well, I, I, I would say for some, not all, for some, it has something to do with what they know about God to a degree. Because for some, it's just the way that you're wired. It has nothing to do with what you know about church or what you know about God. I know, Cora, you experience the opposite of what most people experience. Most people who are in leadership in church and they do something, have a sin that everybody can see, they get sat down versus overlooking it and hurry up. We just need you on this and this ministry. You know what I mean? Um, so I think for me, because I was very young, I knew God. I was raised in church my whole life. I knew who God was. I know who Jesus was, but I didn't know what it was to have a relationship with them. But I was always the kid who didn't care about what other people thought or said, or I was always on the side of right. Right is right and wrong is wrong at the end of the day. I don't care who you are, you know. Just if, when people, they kind of get that picture by reading my story. And just to be real transparent, this is not a secret, because it happened in front of hundreds of people. Um, your experience was, you had this baby and you had a stillbirth and nobody was concerned. And so you stopped going to church because you were hurt by the fact that you didn't feel cared for and concerned, right? So,
Right. Yeah, I was set down in the beginning when I had a belly, but then as soon as I had a stillbirth and there was no more belly, that's how I was viewing it.
right. Now, see, and that's not real accountability, out of love. You see what I'm saying? So for me, it was, here I am married to a man with a 1-year-old and a 6-month-old. We had at the time, and I remember a time where he was sleeping with people in the church. They would walk up to me, smile to me like I didn't know. People in the church knew this, after choir rehearsal, y'all going out and things of that sort. And nobody said anything to me. People, saying certain things, laughing behind my back. None of that mattered to me. And I remember there was a time where every single Sunday for like, I know, a good 2 or 3 months, I was at the altar. Every single Sunday. And somebody was like, why she go up there to the altar every Sunday? She need to give somebody else a chance. And then you got other people saying, leave her alone. You don't know what she's going through, blah, blah, blah. Here I am, I'm married, and I am putting up with a husband who is verbally abusive. People wouldn't believe some of the things that happen on behind closed doors. Uh, and I am sitting next to and talking to and greeting individuals that I know that he's messing with, the things of that sort. And I remember a time on a Sunday morning, one time, the pastor called all couples up in the church to pray for marriages. And it got so silent. Pastor was waiting for me to get out of my seat. Everybody else was at the altar except for me. He was waiting for me to get out of my seat, and you could hear a pin drop. Now you're talking about, it's like 500 or 600 people in here, okay? And my husband is sitting on the drums, leaning back with his arms folded, like, I ain't getting up and going up there with her. And they said, my friend was like, go ahead, go up there. So I walked over to him, sitting there, and he says to me in front of the entire church, I don't know what you come over here for. I'm not going up there with you. So what did I do? I went to the altar by myself. I was constantly humiliated and ridiculed in front of everybody. That never stopped me from going to church, because what I needed, and in my mind, I had to see my friends, like, none of you Negroes in here can give me what I need. I can only get that from God, and I'm not going to let any of you stop me. You know what I mean? So that was just my mindset. And it wasn't until that time where I was in between like 21, 23, where I really started to understand what it was like to develop or have a relationship with God. And I think it speaks more to our mindsets before we even enter in and make that choice to where we're going to go to church, you know, and this is what church is about, and this is what God is about. Because, like I said, I was always the individual who I could care less about what you think or what you have to say, you know, about me. The only people who had the ability to alter that and make me feel some type of way were the people that was really, really close to me, like my mother, like my father, like the person I was married to. Those are the only individuals who could affect me in that way by what they said. Anybody else, I could care less, you know. So for me, I'm just like, in my mind, I don't see other people call it church hurt, but for me, I'm just like, there's no such thing, you know. Like, these are people coming from all different walks of life, coming into this one building, because the people are the church. You know what I mean? Because when your family does something to you or your kids, you don't say, "Oh, that's my child hurt," or that's my mama hurt. You know?
Keep in mind, though, you were raised in church, though, so so you have that knowledge. You have a knowledge base of saying that you know, I don't need these people in order to get to God. Some people don't have that knowledge base.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna take our last break real quick, Cora. So just stand by. All of you who are watching, stand by. This is a good conversation. We'll be back in a few moments. So, Cora, is music, what do you find to be more releasing, music or poetry?
I'm using artistry for it.
Poetry.
I'm not a person that talk a lot. So it's like poetry needs to have that voice. I mean, I'm a weird kind of person. When I put the personality test, it made me take it off. I'm a extroverted introvert. That makes sense. So being encouraged, I was used to make fun of people and talking in front of people. And I don't have no problem with that. But if I'm like, you know, I'm just leaving you or something like that, I'm kind of still, I'm like, you know, really well and be quiet in the cut. And then once I warm up to you, then I'm talking. So that's why poetry, like, if I don't want to talk about something, I can easily put it in a poem, and I'm going to read it to that person and tell them everything I want to say.
Yes.
I want to try to talk to them. I can't tell them. But if I got a poem, I can just say everything I'm trying to say, read it straight out. They're not going to interrupt me or overtalk me. So they got to listen because it's a performance almost.
Right.
So they got to listen. And the way I'm saying it is going to make you want to listen. Or if I just start talking to you, you interrupt and say, no, that don't make sense. Or blah, 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 blah. But with the poem, you can't do that. It's almost like the paper becomes a person and it listens, even if I don't go listen.
Right. I know for me, it was music. I love music. Every fiber in my being, music does something to me. I've been singing since I could talk. My family is, you know, is very, very musically inclined. My mother, she's a beast when it comes to music. And so as a child, I used that was more of a healing and release for me. Singing it took me to another